Well, good afternoon all to you all. I'm very happy and privileged to be here with you. I always wanted to visit a Baltic country. When I was a kid, I would read geographic books, and always the flag of Lithuania was something very interesting to me. So I'm very privileged to be here. Again, my name is Nelson Llempen. I'm from Chile. Chile is in South America. And I am a geologist trained in Chile in a secular university. And I'm also a Christian. I am a Seventh-day Adventist young man. And regardless of being a scientist, a geologist, I'm a convinced Christian believer. I believe in the fidelity of the Bible. And following what Raul said, I am not exempt of doubts as well. However, thank God I could manage. I will share with you my experience in a secular university and the trials, the doubts, the achievements, and the good parts also of being in this struggle. So, okay, this is summarized in 3 parts. The first one, it was the shock. Then the actual formation as a scientist, and then how did I integrate my beliefs and my training. So I was born in the north, which is very dry and hot. And I moved to Concepción in Chile. And I was accepted in an Adventist student residence. So many students sharing the same faith. We lived in a building managed by ourselves, and all of us were students in secular campuses, in secular universities. So all of us, we were subjected to the same problems, to the same experiences as young Christians. So I would say in advance that this factor was one of my main pillars throughout 6 years of education. The undergraduate degrees in Chile and in South America last at least 5 years, and mine takes 6 years to complete. It's a lot. So this is my university. It's called the University of Concepción. It's the 3rd most prestigious university in the country, and also they have a beautiful campus, a lot of green areas, a lot of faculties, and they have more than 27,000 students. It's a lot. And also this university was recently ranked as the 4th more prestigious university in geology in Latin America. So the formation was very strong. So this is me entering in the university, and this is me finishing the degree. Thank God. So, but how do you manage this? Well, okay, this was my first shock in geology. Let's keep this in mind. Let's imagine yourself in the first row of the class, like if you were seated here, being very interested to learn what you are most passionate about. Let's see if you like books, if you like traveling, if you like photography, if you like knitting, or if you like whatever. Let's say that you are in the most interesting class that you ever had, and you sit in the first row. That was me at that moment. And the first slide of geology class was, let's talk about the myth of Genesis. Oh, wow. I was very shocked because I was a young Christian, a very strong one, with my beliefs very firm. But the very first class of this professor, highly respected professor of science, in geology, she would say, okay, let's talk about history of geology and let's talk about the myth of Genesis. Oh, wow. So who should I believe? Right? I didn't expect Genesis to appear in the first minutes. It was shocking, but it forced me to listen carefully. I watched not only the words, but also the intention behind them. Most professors separated science and religion into different realms. Most of these professors were actually believers, believers in God through the Catholic denomination. But they separated both things. And that was a very shocking experience. But it forced me, as it says, to think more carefully, to analyze my beliefs deeply, and to contrast what is in the Bible and what I am learning now, that is geology, right? By the way, what is geology? Geology is the study of rocks, the study of the history of the earth, layer by layer, the study of minerals, volcanoes, fossils, what I'm very passionate about, by the way, the study of the evolution of the earth processes. And what is behind this discipline is a very foundational philosophical claim. We will get into that later. So, what was the very first lesson for me as the time went through? A zealous defense of faith is not always the beginning of influence. So, my community of Christian young people was strong, and that helped me a lot to go through these experiences of struggling. And I really wanted to tell the truth to everyone and say, hey, you're wrong, the Genesis is true, but that is not the way. And that's definitely not thinking carefully, as Raul told us recently. So, in the opposite, I learned the language, the methods, and all of the standards of geology because I was very passionate about it. I really wanted to learn it, to go to the field, to study the rocks, to study their history, to study scientific methods in a very rigorous way. And obviously, classmates, they were seeing that I was very passionate about this. And also they started to ask me, hey, so what do you do on Saturdays, right? let's go parties. Let's go have fun. What are you doing Friday night? And what do you say? So I started by saying, okay, well, I'm a Christian. I presented myself as a Christian, not Adventist. First, Christian. I believe in Jesus, and I like to follow what is in the Bible about the rest, the weekly rest. And I do that, and I rather prefer doing other type of social and spiritual activities. I never presented Saturday as a day of don'ts. Okay? So for me, Saturday was never the day of nots. Not to do this, not to do this, not to wear this, or not. To the opposite. It was a day of do's. What do I do on this special day? For example, this is just an example. So humility earned more trust than being defensive or feeling attacked by questions of your classmates or even teachers. So respectful listening opened doors later. So usually one of the fears that some of my classmates had as well, that they were Christians and even Adventists as well, was that they were afraid to be mocked or to not fit into the group. And that's very valid. I mean, I do understand it, and it's really difficult. And all of us, young people, all of us are searching for truth, are searching for answers to experiences in life. So my way to do it was not attacking the people. It was totally opposite, to be receptive and gain trust in these people. So, by the way, parallel to this, working with scientific standards is something very important. So this is a special point. Working with scientific standards doesn't mean that you don't have to keep living your faith as you do. These concepts are not opposite. They were not opposite to me. They were actually working together. Methodological fluency. Things here, this is the geological time scale. And I remember a test that I had when you had to put, okay, for example, Miocene, 5 million years, from 20 million years to 5 million years. And I was there in the test. What do I have to write down? Do I write down what I was told to write, or should I write something different, something with thousands of years instead? But in this stage of academic formation, I realized that the aftermath of all of this is what really matters. Being able to present here in another country to other scientific people from Europe, it's the main outcome that comes from following methodological fluency. But by doing this doesn't mean that, to me, that you are compromising what your faith is grounded on. Because in the aftermath, after this, the outcomes come out. For example, there's another interesting word here, radiometric dating, and long age frameworks are as part of the discipline. So, by being a Christian Scientist, we shouldn't have to reject evidences that might challenge what is our worldview. This is a very interesting point. We shouldn't try to be picky in evidences to, as Raul said in the morning, to prove God or to prove the Bible. The scientific mind, the good scientific mind is honest with evidence, is humble if your hypothesis is reviewed or if your hypothesis is not right. That's the right scientific mind. And so we are me as a Christian, also in my spiritual life, I must follow the same principles, humble and honest with myself and with my doubts. So thank God I could learn the tools of the geology while keeping my deeper foundation in God. Because ultimately in college, what my experience was, probably you can also share yours, is that the ultimate questions doesn't have to do that much about, for example, in my case, millions of years, but they are grounded on different things that are not material, like I want to be seen, for example. I want to be validated. I need to be loved. I want to be part of a community that understands me and understands my stage in life. There are deeper questions that go beyond science that usually are the ones that make us struggling more. As you can, let's analyze, for example, what Dr. Raul shared with us right before. What they were his main fights regarding faith. They were regarding millions of years? No, they were other types of doubts about suffering, about death. So as science is dealing with this, it's perfectly okay to work with methodological procedures, very valid, and be honest and humble and professional and serious about it. And that is a testimony by itself that we are doing rigorous science. That's why we were accepted in this conference, and we were able to present one of the most cutting-edge research in dinosaurs. So this is another story regarding science. So what happened here in the first Sabbath rest? So in my third year, a paleontology exam was scheduled on Friday night. Long story short, I asked politely to my professor, please, dear professor, I'm Nelson, I'm taking your class. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. I follow the biblical principle of keeping the Sabbath holy for rest, and I do by principle other activities. Would it be possible to me to accommodate, just if you are willing, to accommodate my exam? I can take it earlier if it's needed. And surprisingly, thank God, she was very open. She was even very interested in my faith. And why did I believe that? And that was a very unique opportunity to share with a secular person what my faith was based on. And she was very respectful. It was a very respectful conversation. And thank God it wasn't the only occasion when where I did that. So another lesson from that is you need to be brave, just brave. Sometimes it's good to be silent, but in other cases it's wiser to be brave and just present honestly what are your beliefs. So asking wisdom from God, was one of the main subjects of prayer during my college years, asking for wisdom. When is better to be persuasive, and when is better to be to just be silent, just be receptive? I mean, always I had to be receptive, and I enjoyed it because I enjoyed to listen to people and to listen what are their doubts, their inquiries, their curiosities. I'm a very social person, so that was probably another huge component of it. So thank God my professor allowed me to take the exam earlier that day, and as I shared, that movement became a door for honest conversation about faith and science, not only with this teacher, but with other teachers as well. So probably the fuel and the engine for me was being part of a community. I can be very proud and privileged to being part of a young Adventist community. But probably you might not have this opportunity. But even with one person that can be very trustable for you, it's more than enough to build community and to face the same challenges. Well, as a student, we will share worship services and vespers, outreach and spiritual retreats, friends who normalized prayer, discipline, and mission. So that is another takeaway. If you are surrounded, even by one people, that shares probably the same convictions of the same vision or the same worldview that you have, it's going to be more likely that you keep going in what you believe. Faith is not meant to be living alone. So without that environment, the academic pressure would have been spiritually heavier. Now, question from classmates. Here, you don't have your Adventist friends to support you, right? You are on your own. And friends here, they asked me about Adventism, the Bible, God, and science, obviously. Here we are in a field trip in the south of Chile. You see the mountains with snow. We were a very interesting people to hang out. And the challenge was to answer briefly without sounding superior. So most of my classmates, they had some religious background, but they were not active, or they were just following another lifestyle. And for them to see a guy, to see a man, a young man, trying to be obedient with the Bible was sometimes something very hard to see. So I learned to be humble, to not to feel or to boast about superior, moral superiority. That's not the point, and that's always, never that's going to be the point. And by that attitude, I was able to gain their trust in me. So listening to their story mattered as much as explaining mine. It wasn't a matter of tell them, hey, this is what is in the Bible, you should read this, you should trust in that, what you're believing is wrong. But by listening to them and trying to explain them respectfully what I was believing, it was most of the times more than enough. So this was very interesting. In the field, there was a real problem or a real question. What happens on Sabbath when everyone is mapping, when everyone is working? So I had two choices. One choice, well, three choices actually. One choice was, okay, I don't care. I'm doing my work. The Lord understands, right? So I go with them. I go and do the work because it's my project for the class, for my degree. Okay, that's one option. The second option is totally the opposite. Okay, teacher, classmates, everybody, I am a religious person. I won't do anything. I'm going to stay in my tent. I'm going to pray the whole day and read the Bible the whole day. And there was the third option, the third choice. What was actually the Sabbath for me? Why do I keep the Sabbath? What is the biblical foundation for the Sabbath? Is about being isolated? And the answer is no. If we go to Isaiah chapter 58, we will see that the real purpose of the Sabbath is to share with people, to take out the burdens of people. So this was a very special, unique case when your principles are put into, the fireproof, put into trial. So following the principle and not what you are used to do was the key for solving this issue. Following the principle. And the principle of the Sabbath is not only rest for you, but rest for others. And at the same time that I was not working, I was able to help, and this was the solution, to help the people who was preparing lunch and preparing and helping with the camp and with the tents. So I was able to help out the cook. I cooked for my classmates. I helped running errands for the supportive personnel of the expedition. So, and those moments they were very open to ask me questions as well about my faith. And there were very interesting and very good conversations out of it. You don't seek to gain an argument. You are always seeking to gain people. And thankfully, my professors allowed me, obviously, to not work on that day, because they were also earlier SDA students that had carried harder battles before me. So what about geology? What about this science of the history of the earth? Mountains, layers, and dinosaur tracks made me contemplate creation more deeply. It's so fascinating when you see 1,000, this not in feet, in meters, 500 meters cliff with layers uniformly shaped throughout kilometers and kilometers, or to see very well preserved animals that lived in the past. See that complexity on earth just made me realize, wow, God, how great you are. And of course, there were very nice, very amazing demonstrations of the power of God through these formations, like mountains, like fossils. But in these evidences, you also see challenges. You also see things on rocks that might not match with a brief period of time. So the complexity of Earth made me humbler, even humbler. As Dr. Raul said, I don't have all the answers, and probably I won't have ever all the answers. But I'm not trying to look for these answers right now. But therefore, my purpose by doing science, my personal purpose on doing science, is to honor and glory God with understanding, on trying to understand a little better His mind and His glory. And of course, I won't have all the answers, but by our research, we will be able to find little by little more answers, but we will have more questions then. But also the purpose of God is that we use our minds, not them to be shut down, but always thinking carefully, critiquing, analyzing methods, questioning methods, bringing up new questions. That is what science is about. And unfortunately, it has been taken by this very foundational philosophical claim of naturalism, which probably in the next presentation or afterwards, we will see that science is not based, or the claims or the interpretations or the paradigms are not ultimately based on the evidence, but in the interpretations that we put into these evidences. So, what faith did to my career as a geologist? I could have just get away. I could have lived silent, not talking anyone that I was a Christian. I could have perfectly just get by. And it would have been fine by me. I could have lived my religious life set apart and also doing my science, in the other part. That is what most of the people do. But if we are aiming to seek the truth, we will understand that living the truth is not living it one day at the week. Living the truth permeates all the aspects of your life. Not only one day, not only your morals or your ethics. It permeates everything. So having doubts, it's okay. It's okay. But let's aim to live the truth entirely. Even having doubts, but aiming to live the truth in all aspects of our life. So particularly, what faith did to my studies. It made me more empathetic with people. The empathy keeps dialogue possible, from the atheist to the pastors. Being empathetic, being open to receive doubts or even mocking. I was subjected to mocking, to be honest with you. I did receive jokes from classmates, but this is just a little suffering. This is just a little suffering before what I have after, which is my faith, my hope of living eternally, my hope of my assurance, different from certainty, but my assurance of being saved by Jesus. And prayer prepared me for conversations, exams, professors, and influence I could not see. You can say it's perfectly fine to think that your professors never listen to you, that they are the ultimate truth. But the prayer and also the wisdom of approach to them open doors to have meaningful conversations and even exchange of missionary material. That was a good experience as well. And the biblical narrative and my community gave me a framework with hope. So creation, fall, redemption, and restoration, these concepts are my philosophical background from which I perform this beautiful activity of the humankind, which is science. It's amazing. It's amazing. But it shouldn't be a problem for an honest Christian to develop science and also honoring God. But having this background, or at least trying to aim for following this background, is important. It is essential. It's essential. And then everything else can be subjected to test, to proof. And seeking evidence honestly and humbly, it's also very important. So, yes, this is what I said. And this is, I'm not turning back. Well, this is probably a very, maybe even provocative declaration, not turning back, because I'm pretty sure that I will have questions in the future. I will have doubts as John the Baptist. But it's always good, it always is going to be good that we have a very loving God in the heavens that cares about us. And, well, faith taught me where my ultimate foundation is. And Jesus Christ remains as a creator, as a redeemer, and at the center of history. Today I can say to you that I am a firm believer in Christ, in his resurrection, and he saved me, he forgave my sins, and he is promising an eternal life. And I want to live by that truth. That's the ultimate truth for me. Even though in the future I might be shaken. But today I want to assure you, and I want to declare to you that I'm not turning back my faith. And I wish everybody here aims at least to follow genuinely what the questions leads to you. So to finish, I'm just showing here a picture. This is a dinosaur footprint. I've been speaking about science and religion, but what is my science? Well, the science is this one: dinosaur footprints and fossils in the rock record, the evidence of life in the past. And it's perfectly fine to study this. Dinosaurs, they might be a synonym of evolution, but they are not. They shouldn't be a synonym. They are just evidence of life, very incredible life. And if you keep in touch with our research, you will see that they were very interesting animals. And this is another story. I'm very happy. I'm privileged to share this little testimony and to get to know you. And God bless. Thank you.